Democratic Visions is handmade in Eden Prairie and Minnetonka by DFL Senate District 42.
It's a distinct pleasure to welcome Franny Franken and U.S. Senator Al Franken to Democratic Visions. Nice to see you, Franny.
Nice to see you. Thanks
Al,
for
good
having
to see
us.
you.
Great to see you.
Now, I know you're back in Minnesota on the recess from Congress, and I suspect you've been spending so much time over at the State Fair that you probably get in on a family Super Saver Pass. What are they telling you over there, Al, about their concerns?
Well, mainly it's talking about health care, and a lot of people are just coming up to me and saying, we want health care reform, fight for it, and a lot of people are saying, fight for the public option.
Well, this was a long, arduous campaign, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
You were certified by the U.S. or State Supreme Court, excuse me, on June 30, and then on July 1, you went over to the state capitol, Al, and thanked your family, your friends, your volunteers, the DFL, organized labor, and so forth. Was that an emotional moment for the both of you?
Yes.
It really was. I mean, it had been a long time. It had been 8 months, and there's some pent-up emotion, I think. And then, so when it finally ends, it was quite emotional. And you know, it was looking at all these folks that had helped us, that helped me, including most of all Franny, who I think I said in the speech that it was a historically close race, and if it had been for Franny, I would have lost by kind of a lot.
That's interesting, and I think that's probably accurate.
Yes.
Well, and I found when the ruling
Thanks for
came,
saying that. But you're right.
when the ruling came, I felt stunned, exhilarated, and a big sense of relief, all at the same time.
Now, I know that you're aware of the fact that you're holding a seat that was formerly held by Senator Paul Wellstone.
Sure.
Have you had occasion to reread his book, The Conscience of a Liberal, to see what steps he took when he came into the Senate? It's quite interesting to see how he sets out his agenda and how that agenda matches with the reality of the Senate. Have you paused, or have you thought about that as you settle into your new job?
I read that book a long time ago, so I haven't read that recently. I read Bill Lofi's book on him, which is a really good book about Paul. Paul actually made a couple mistakes right away when he came in, and he's, I think, the first to admit it. And so I've been very conscious of coming in and, first of all, making friends with my colleagues across the aisle, and with really rolling up my sleeve and getting to work. I come in with some celebrity, and I kind of I had a long time, you know, it was between the election when I actually was seated, so I consulted with a lot of people, and so and a lot of people would say the same thing: do what Hillary Clinton did. And what Hillary Clinton did was roll up her sleeves and get to work. And because her colleagues, you're viewed with a certain bit of skepticism if you come in with more notoriety than some of them. I want to go do the work, and that's why I'm there, and that's what I've been doing.
And you also used the time productively, too, so that you could ready your first piece of legislation for the service dogs.
Well, yeah, actually, I did have a bill pass like the second week, which I was very gratified by, and it was a bill that was actually the chief co-sponsor was a Republican from Georgia, Johnny Isaacson, and the bill was to do a pilot program to provide service dogs to wounded vets. I kind of got the inspiration for it at the inaugural. We met Luis. Luis Montalban is a captain in the Army and had been wounded in Iraq, and he had PTSD. It's pretty severe, but he was at this event with his service dog Tuesday, and he told me, a beautiful Golden, he told me he couldn't be there without Tuesday. So I asked him what Tuesday did for him, and he said that Tuesday can anticipate and ward off a panic attack just by the changes in Luis's breathing and perspiration. And he tells Luis when to take his medicine, and he can wake Luis up from a debilitating nightmare. And then I started doing research on this. In fact, today I went to a women's prison, in Shakopee where they train service dogs. The person who trained Tuesday was a prisoner and is now out of prison and has a job training service dogs.
This is a pilot program that's going
It's a
forward?
pilot program, and the purpose of the program is to do a study of what the benefits are of this.
I see.
And because we have so many guys returning and women returning with PTSD, we have very high suicide rate, record high suicide rate. And I believe that, and the evidence shows that this will bring down the number of suicides, that it will decrease hospitalizations, it'll decrease to some degree the amount of human care that's needed. It'll really be helpful. And again, one of the benefits is just a sense of well-being.
Sure.
And to break the isolation, as
Yes.
Franny was saying. I was talking to veterans who have dogs, and you know, one, it gets you out of the house because you got to take your dog out.
Right.
And secondly, if you're a vet in a wheelchair, people don't come up and talk to you. But if you're a vet in a wheelchair with a dog, they come up and talk to you. It was a good idea. I don't know if I'm going to come up with another good idea.
I'm sure you will. Franny, I got a question for you. I know that you were closely associated with the Sheila Wellstone Institute, and
Yes.
then also with the Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center,
Yes.
and then with PACER. Now, are you going to be able to continue those interests when you're out in D.C.?
I absolutely feel that I can, and I'm hoping to touch base with national organizations that would also partner with our Minnesota chapters.
That's a good idea.
Yes, yes.
Al, I want to get into a couple of issues, but before we get into the healthcare, I want to talk just briefly about the Sotomayor nomination, where you expressed a real interesting idea, which I think is dead on, where you were accusing the Bush-dominated U.S. Supreme Court of a conservative judicial activism. And you cited, as I believe, Clarence Thomas's vote against the 2006 voting rights renewal. And you also indicated, as I believe, that the Supreme Court is now poised to unwind some important aspects of campaign finance.
Right.
What was your colleague's reaction to those remarks by you?
Well, it was interesting because I think it was quite positive. Even Senator Sessions, at one point, after I kind of laid this groundwork, Senator Sessions of Alabama acknowledged that there is conservative judicial activism. And this has been something that's been, bothering me for years, which is you see mainly Republicans running for office saying the kind of judge I want is a judge who's not going to be a judicial activist, who won't legislate from the bench, like Clarence Thomas. and if you look at it, Clarence Thomas has voted to overturn laws written by Congress, who are the legislature, more often than Stevens and Breyer combined. I mean, he is the definition of. I mean, on the Voting Rights Act in 2006, 98 senators voted to renew it. He voted. He said it didn't need to be renewed.
In his dissent.
In his dissent.
Yes.
And it's expressly in the 15th Amendment.
And you had your copy of the Constitution to
Yeah,
prove it?
I read from it, and that the Congress makes the laws regarding elections, and so Thomas had no business even questioning Congress's right to do the Voting Rights Act. I just wanted to just make it so that if Republicans continue to do this and continue to campaign saying, I don't want a judicial activist, then someone would come back and say, you know what, and point to things.
Now, you may not agree with this, but I sort of figure that's sort of a continuation of what you were doing in Air America, where you
It
were
very much
where
was.
you were, setting the record straight. And as a Minnesotan, I very much appreciate that, and I think most lawyers of any kind of progressive bent across the country share that sentiment.